Masaki, the main character, stands out because, in a chill slice of life anime, she's a genuinely self-centered asshole, but she isn't purely evil. She is a good person, unaware of her selfish behavior. However, I might be getting ahead of myself. Let me briefly introduce the characters we will be following. Liu, the main vampire. She desires Masaki's blood and has made an agreement that once they reach 1 million subscribers, Masaki will be drained completely. Ichigo. About 100 years before the events of the show, one evil vampire turned Ichigo into a vampire who leaves hell. She is now in a better place and enjoys cooking. Fu, a relaxed vampire musician who is somewhat shy. Tokage, a vampire with a gambling addiction. Yuki, alongside Libu, she is one of the oldest vampires and serves as the handler of the group. The series follows Masaki's downward spiral after she faces cancellation. She initially started a channel with two of her school friends. However, now in her 20s, with declining views, in a moment of frustration, during a live stream, she punches one of her friends square in the face. This incident led to her being kicked out of the channel. Unwilling to admit defeat, Masaki launches her own solo channel, but is met with a torrent of negative comments. This onslaught of negativity instills a fear of being on camera in her, making it hard for her to compete with her former friends. Enter Ribu, a vampire who has just awakened from a 20-year slumber. Ribu seems drawn to Masaki and desires her blood. But in this universe, vampires maintain a peaceful relationship with humans and live in peace. This means that Ribu must obtain Masaki's consent before taking her blood. After a chance meeting in an abandoned hospital, and as it happens, Masaki is willing to give up all of her blood if Ryu helps her reach 1 million subscribers. A goal she previously had with her friends, now seeking to achieve it without them, probably out of spite, even if it cost her life. Simple enough, with vampire powers, making a bunch of insane videos should be easy, right? Well, yes, but because the existence of vampires is supposed to be a secret, a higher-up commanded Ribu to delete the channel. Ribu, however, is not willing to give up Masaki's blood that easily, so she agrees to take the long route and star in the videos, but without revealing or using any of her powers, alongside her followers, Ichigo, Fu and Tokage. We understand what Ribu wants, but what do Ichigo, Fu and Tokage gain from this? Or how does a streamer relate to these high-class immortal vampires and make them agree to be on her silly internet videos? Well, having supernatural strength and living for a long time does not mean someone has fixed nor faced their problems. I previously mentioned how the vampires have a peaceful life in the series. This was not always the case. 100 years before the show started, the vampires were at war with other vampires and humans. Back then, Ryu and Yuki hunted evil vampires. One of these evil vampires turned Ichigo into a vampire when she was a child. We don't really know the reason, but it was probably to cause chaos. After leaving her home, she found Ryu, who gave her a new place to stay. We don't know much about Fu and Tokage's past, but they seem troubled. Fu is quiet and merely going through the motions, whereas Tokage has a reckless gambling addiction. And here is where Masaki enters. Even if she is self-centered and unaware of her own attitude, she is really active in achieving her goals, moving forward and making these vampires face their problems and clean their act. In the case of Tokage, literally clean up, as she is a class 5 hoarder and lives in a room full of garbage. Fu enjoys music but closed herself off after a past incident. However, Masaki's persistent search for content eventually helps her reopen that part of herself. Let me put a pin on this. Yuki, on the other hand, seems to be well put together. She delivers blood to the gang regularly and is the handler of the group. After much effort and a period of publishing 3 videos per day, let me put a pin on this. The gang gets invited to a show collaboration of content creators. It seems straightforward, doesn't it? Well, Tokage unintentionally makes 2 popular content creators fall for her, much to her displeasure. This situation leads a psycho girl to sabotage the event by causing a blackout. The event organizer proposes cancelling the event due to consideration of the audience safety, but the group decides to perform a pop song in the dark while Masaki works on restoring the lights. She ends up finding Psycho Girl as the cause, to make her favorite content creators notice her. But she is not willing to give up that easily and started throwing hands. This led to a pretty sweet idol song and a full-on melee fight between Masaki and Psycho Girl, which Masaki ends up winning by knocking her lights out and restoring the light of the event in a pretty satisfying midnight punch. And in the midst of all this is the overarching narrative of Masaki's fear of being on camera and her cancellation. Throughout the show, and even after her fight, Masaki is unable to be in the spotlight with the gang, mainly working behind the camera as the editor because she is known as a toxic streamer. and is not able to face the negative comments. But following an unexpected encounter with her former friends, the public learns about Masaki's involvement with the gang and floods the comments and livestream with negativity. The gang encourage her to show up live with them and face the music. As they understand, she is kind of an asshole, but a good person deep down. And here is where the main point of the series is evident, as throughout the show, Masaki exhibits toxic traits, but somewhat subtle, and she seems unaware of them. But as the series unfolds, she starts to become aware of them. After the incident with Fu, she apologizes and acknowledges that she should have been more respectful. After clashing with the gang over creative differences, she acknowledges that she was a bit overbearing and bossy with them and her former friends, and proceeds to let the gang have more agency in the making of the videos, as well as the number of videos they publish. Masaki is an asshole, but a nuanced one. A good person who lacks self-awareness about her self-centered behavior. She is slowly gaining that self-awareness and developing the bravery to step back into the spotlight. But not all is fixed. Evil vampires, the head vampire, whoever turned Ichigo, Tokage's past, and Psycho Girl are still out there. Overall, it's a great chill series for when you feel like watching something light without being overwhelmed. However, if intense and heavy is what you're seeking, I have a recommendation for you. And aside from that, remember to drink water.